In the course of the church year, we have the 12 great feasts. And whether by accident or by design, that calendar begins and ends with Mary. August has the last of the 12 great feasts of the church year, the Dormition, marking Mary's death. And September then has the first of the great feasts, marking the birth of Mary. And so in a certain sense, we follow along during the course of the church year from Mary's birth until Mary's passing. I hope from time to time we reflect on just why Mary is as important for us as she is. She is for us an exemplar. She is for us a model of a life of faith. The model of a girl who gives up everything life might have had to offer her to follow God's will, to follow God's plan. She doesn't know exactly where it's going. The angel appears at the Annunciation and doesn't say much. But Mary's response that, "Let it be done to me according to God's will," is the example for each and every one of us. That surrender of self, that giving oneself completely as is humanly possible to God's will, to God's plan. And we know the path was not always smooth. The path was not always carefree. The path was not all roses and sweetness. There were fears. There was the potential for public shame. There was ultimately following in the footsteps of her son to what must have seemed with her earthly eyes as an early and terrible death. But even there, she doesn't try to impose her own will. She's willing to trust. She's willing to have faith. She's willing to follow in the footsteps of her son. And that's exactly what each and every one of us is called to do. I'm always curious sometimes when folks come and say, "But Father, I believe, I have faith, I've always tried to follow Christ. Why isn't God giving me an easy life?" Because no one gets an easy life, dear, not even the Blessed Virgin. No one ever promised us that. What does God promise us? If you follow me, there are going to be trials. He tells us the exact opposite of us having an easy life. He's telling us if you follow me, there are going to be trials. There are going to be tribulations. But we know that those trials and those tribulations are not the end. We're still called to faithfulness. We're called to that same trust. We're called to follow in the footsteps of Christ, just as Mary did, until each of us in our turn receives our reward, hopefully, in heaven, where we can hear, we hope to, those words, "Well done, good and faithful servant, enter now into the rest that been prepared for you. To Jesus Christ be glory, both now and ever, ages of ages. Amen.